So we're going to start with f of x equals x squared. And we're going from 1 to 3. And we want n to equal 2. So if I'm going to find the trapezoid sum, I'm going to graph it just the way I did last week. I'm going from 1 to 3, so I'm just starting at 1 and then going to 3. So 1, 1. I'll go ahead and do 2, 4. And then 3, 9 is way up there. Not to scale, that's okay. N is 2, so that means that I want 2 trapezoids. So that meant that I'm going to make a trapezoid from 1 to 2, and then a trapezoid from 2 to 3. Good so far? And basically, that would have been a curve. Okay? So, the trapezoid, what you do is you come down with the 2 points, and then you just make a trapezoid. And then you do the same thing with the last one. You come down with it, and you make a trapezoid. With left and right, you know how you have to, consider how to make those? I think the trapezoid's easy to make. Sometimes the trapezoid area formula, people forget, but... So basically what I want to do is I want to find the area of those 2 trapezoids, and I want to add them together. Okay. The area of a trapezoid is, anybody remember? No. 1/2.
It's a base 1 minus base 2.
Height, base 1 plus base 2. Okay, so it's interesting here because the trapezoid is actually, it's up and down instead of sideways, and sideways is the normal way where you think about the heights and the bases. The bases are actually the sides. So, this is base 1 and that's base 2. If I talk about that first trapezoid. And then down here at the bottom is the height. Because really, if you think about it, you're just kind of turning it sideways, and that's your trapezoid. Okay? So your bases are really your heights, and your height's really your base. If you need to write that formula a different way to help you remember, that's fine. So on the first trapezoid, it's going to be 1/2 times, okay, this was at the y value of 1. This is at the y value of 2. So 1 plus 4. Oh, and I forgot the height, but the height is 1 because it's, the width of it is 1. And then the second one is 1/2 times the y value at 2, and then the y value at 3, and then still times 1. And I think if you work all that out, you get 9.
Where's the times 1 thought?
I want us to do the same problem. And I want you to find the left sum, LH sometimes is called left hand, but I want you to find the left sum, and I want you to find the right sum, right hand sum. And I want to compare it to what happened with the trapezoid. Okay? So same problem. Same problem. 1 to 3. But with rectangles this time.
Oh.
So I want you to find the left. If I draw the left, it's going to be that one, and then that one. So it should be 1 plus 4, right? Times 1, because they're 1 wide, so you get 5. And then now if I do the other one, that would be that one plus that one. So it's 9 plus 4, right? And then if I average it, what do I get? 9. Let's do a similar problem, y equals x squared. And let's go from 1 to 3 still. This time let's do n equals 4. We're not going to draw a picture this time. Okay? We're going to kind of think about it and think a way around it. If you want to draw a picture, go for it, but I want to get you to think about it because sometimes it might not be written in picture form. Okay? So we're going to make a table. And we're going to try to figure out, okay, what x and y values do I actually need? And let's just do trapezoid, I guess. Which really means just average left and right if I want to. All right, n is 4. So how wide are these rectangles going to be? 1/2 half, right? So we're going to have 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3, 3.5, and 4. Do you agree? So that means that there's like one rectangle from here to here. There's one from there to there, from there to there, there to there, there to there, and there to there. 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't know why I'm doing that. I thought there were too many. Yeah, it's from 1 to 3. Okay, so let's figure out our y values. I don't know what 1.5 squared is. I think it's 2.25.
Yep.
And then 2.5 squared, is it 6.25? Okay. So I'm going to do, because it says trapezoid, I know that if I add left and right together and then average it, I'm going to get the same answer. So I'm going to do left and right. We can go back and do trapezoid the real way if you want to in a minute. Left starts on the left. So it starts with the heights of the first one. And if I'm going to make 4 rectangles, I don't want to include 9. Right? And then when I do right, I start on the right, and I want to make 4 rectangles, so I don't include the 1. Okay? So if I'm looking at a table, if I want to do the left, I'm going to multiply by the width. The width is a half. And I'm just going to like put all the things I'm going to add and then multiply by the half outside of it. So I'm going to have 1 plus 2.25 plus 4 plus 6.25. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's basically the same as saying a half times 1, a half times 2.25, a half times 4, just without all the work. And then if I do right, it's going to be a half times 9 plus 6.25 plus 4 plus 2.25 added together. Okay, let's go ahead and get what that is. I think midpoint is different. So I think I'm going to go ahead and use that same y equals x squared from 1 to 3, and we're going to let n equals 2. I'm going to draw it first. So you can see what it looks like. All right, what midpoint does is it still makes a rectangle, like from 1 to 2 there'll be a rectangle, and from 2 to 3 there'll be a rectangle, okay? But the height of those rectangles is the height at the midpoint in each of those intervals. So from 1 to 2, what's the midpoint? 1.5. So the height of the rectangle that it wants me to draw is the y value at 1.5. So that's the midpoint rectangle between 1 and 2. So then I look at the midpoint between 2 and 3, which is what? 2.5. And whatever the height is at 2.5, that's how tall the rectangle should be. There are times where trapezoid is a really good estimate, and there's times where midpoint is a really good estimate. I don't have a great way to help you look at that and tell. The interesting thing is that it's over on this first rectangle, it's over a little bit, and you're missing that, but it sort of like looks like it might even itself out. Same thing here, like it's over a lot here, but you're missing this part, so it looks like it sort of evens out a little bit. Okay, so to do that, I have to find the y value at 1.5, and I have to find the y value at 2.25, which we did a minute ago. Was 2.25 the right value? 6.25. So then the answer would be 2.25 times 1 plus 6.25 times 1. And I think you get 8.5. So I want to find the midpoint, Riemann sum, and I want n to equal 2. And it seems like a whole lot of numbers on this table in order for me to do this for n equals 2. But the reason there's so many numbers is because you have to consider how wide it is, and then you have to have the midpoint in between it. So if I'm going from 1 to 5, and I want 2 rectangles, how wide are the rectangles? They're too wide, right? So what that means is there's a rectangle that's coming from 1 to 3, and then there's a rectangle that's coming from 3 to 5. Does that make sense so far?
Why aren't they evenly spaced? There's one rectangle that's goes from 1 to 3.
So then for the midpoint, I have to think about, okay, what's the midpoint between 1 and 3? That's 2. So the height of that rectangle that's going to be going from 1 to 3 is going to be 5. So the height of the rectangle is 5, and we know that the width of it is 2. So that's the area of that first rectangle. And then the second rectangle, I have to think about, okay, from 3 to 5, the midpoint is 4. The height of that rectangle is going to be the height at 4, so it'll be 17, and still the width is 2. I get 44.
Wait, what's 2?
Unfortunately, whenever you're given a table or information, it may not be even intervals. Let's say on this problem that I wanted to find the left sum. And this one's different from the others because if you look at the x values, they're not going up by the same amounts. And so that means that my rectangles are different widths. But that's okay. It's okay for that to happen. Normally, if they ask you to create a left and right hand sum, like if they give you an equation or something, you'll do it even in even intervals. But it's possible that they would just give you a table and say, hey, find the left sum, and it may not be in even intervals. Okay? So I'm coming from the left, which means I'm going to start with the 5, and I'm going to use that height, and that height. Which means n would have to equal what? 3. Because there's going to be a rectangle that's 5 high, there's going to be a rectangle that's 10 high, and a rectangle that's 11 high. And we're not going to use the 15 because 15 would have been on the right. Okay? So the rectangle that is 5 high, how wide is that rectangle? 2, because we're going from 1 to 3. So the rectangle is 5 high, and it's going from 1 to 3. So it would be 2 times 5. Okay? The rectangle that's 10 high, how wide is it? 4. And then the rectangle that's 11 high, how wide is it? Because you're looking at, like from here to here it's 2, from here to here is 4, and from here to here is 2. So those are like how wide they are when I make them. Now, if I would have said use the right-hand sum, I still would have a 2, 4, and a 2. But I would use 15, 11, and 10 instead of the 5. Okay? All right, so that's 10 plus 40, which is 50, plus 22, I think it's 72.